Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Hope you all are fine and enjoying good health with the grace of Almighty Allah. It is week 9 and we are going to cover lesson number 17 and 18. The objectives of us are to guide and train the students about the following concepts: subject verb agreement using active verbs, active voice, passive voice, verb moods, and other structural types of the sentences. In the previous discussions, we are continuously expressing about stylistics, that what kind of writing expression, words, sentences, length of the sentences, voice, graphics, typography is necessary, is mandatory to learn about, to get expertise in scientific writing. That is very significant area because scientific writing requires you a very solid, smooth, to the point, factual, objective, concrete expressions. There is no room for using analogies and metaphorical expressions. Fine. These are the few points where most of the people are, the students face trouble. The very first one is subject verb agreement. You all know that in a sentence there are two major components. Number one, subject. Subject is the agent, is something that performs an activity or something about something is being described or elaborated about. They are both called subject. For example, I am making a video clip. It is I am subject. Clear? I is the subject and rest all others the predicate, whereas these video clips are for the guidance of the students. So now these video clips, it is the subject. Remaining is the recording. A video recording is the verb. Is recording is recording is the verb. Fine. So agreement between the two should be perfect. Number two, a verb is a word that expresses an activity, tells us about time, and it also coordinates with the subject, that according to the nature of subject, whether the subject is singular, whether the subject is plural. Fine. So this is subject verb agreement is the very important thing, and most of the people make mistakes, especially when they are writing scientific and they do not understand the nature of the subject and the nature of the verb, and it results in interrupting information. When we use wrong subject and wrong verb, and they do not correspond with one another, they often make confusions. Here, verbs must agree with their subjects. This means if you have one subject, then your verb must be singular, and if you have more than one subject, then your verb must be plural. Here is the example. Blood and saliva was collected from the patient upon admission to the ward. Blood and saliva, fine, was collected from the patient upon the admission to the ward. It is incorrect. Why it is incorrect? Because blood and the saliva are the compound subjects. Blood is something different, saliva is something different, and here you find and. So it become double subjects. Thereby we use were collected, and here he has used simply singular verb. This is the mistake, and it is the mistake of the concept. Next is a common mistake in research writing is to complicate sentences by separating the subject from the verb with a long intervening phrases. This often leads to subject verb disagreement because it is no longer clear with subject the verb should agree with. For example, here it is. Blood and saliva, two of many bodily fluids samples analyzed by our clinical assistant, was collected from the patient upon admission to the ward. Fine. But here blood and saliva were collected. Blood and saliva were collected from the patient upon the admission to the ward. Fine. These were two of many bodily fluid samples analyzed by our clinical assistant. Fine. Here is again the problem that people are confused when there are long sentences, long phrases, and they have to face trouble while locating the exact subject. Look at this. Brackets cause the same problem. Any information enclosed in brackets should be ignored when deciding which verb to use. For example, neurological monitoring, particularly pressure and partial oxygen pressure, show whether the brain is vulnerable to hypoxic damage. Fine. This is a text driven by taken from some neurological science department. But here we have to see that these things, particular integral pressures, and they are the words in parentheses. They should be ignored. Only we have to subject neurological monitoring. This is the subject. Fine. And this is why it neurological monitoring shows. Neurological monitoring shows. These words in parentheses and brackets, they should be ignored because they are the extra explanations. They are not including as the integral part of the sentence. The subject of this sentence, neurological monitoring, is singular to, so the verb should be singular to. Fine. Dear students, these were some of the common problems that we used. Then come to the confusing conjunctions. Conjunctions also sometimes confuse you locating your subject and verb agreement. Like in addition to, together with, and as well as, do not make the subject the joined together plural. Using these conjunctions to replace and is a common mistake in research writing and scientific writing, usually leads to subject verb disagreement with this. Fine. Like blood as well as saliva were collected from the patient upon admission to the ward. Clear? It is blood as well as saliva was collected from the patient upon admission to the ward. Clear? Here are some guidelines for you when you are going to locate, going to offer a verb to a subject. Identify the subjects and verbs of your sentences. putting aside the other elements of the sentence momentarily. That when you are going to locate, you should identify the verbs in sentences. Test the subjects and verbs for compatibility if necessary by mentally supplying they for plural subjects and it for singular subjects. Clear? If you don't know, if you feel it that it is singular subject, you can apply it, and if you feel that that sounds as plural, you can apply they. Then the chances of mistake are reduced. Remember that a sentence subject that includes an and is typically a plural and will refer therefore to a verb that agrees with a plural. I mean, when there are things, subjects joined by blood and saliva, for example, so they are normally taken as plurals. If the meaning or grammar of the sentence is unclear, revise so that the subject and verb are closer together in the sentence. Thus, the sentence grammar will be simplified both for you and your reader. Mean, you must understand and analyze the fragments, sentence fragments, to find out subject and verb. Fine. Thank you very much. Hope you have understood this.